Shut up and sit down.
Hello, you've reached the Down Podcast with Matt LeGrand, Evan Price, and Jake Von During. Sorry we've missed your call. Please leave a detailed message after the tone and somebody will get back to you shortly. In the meantime, enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dialed Podcast. I'm Jake Von During, and today I'm here with Mr. Matt LeGrand.
Hey, how's it going?
And Mr. Evan Price.
Hello.
And our very first special guest, Dr. Lance Heppler.
I am a super genius. That's what my kids call me.
All right.
Not needed.
We are growing up. We've got an extra person at the table today. Such fun stuff. So, all right. So let's kick this thing on. How are you guys? How you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
How's that cup of coffee treating you?
It's tasty. Just got out of the pool, and the coffee tastes fantastic.
Yeah. What coffee cup do you have going on there today?
This is a Starbucks cup with the San Diego cityscape. So
nice.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Yeah, it's from my wife's personal collection. So
Yeah.
take care of that one. She likes that San Diego mug.
I have Phoenix over here, and it's nice and sunshiny, and that would be just so nice right now. We could so use some sunshine here.
A nice hit of vitamin D to go with that. Nice hit
Seriously.
of caffeine for you.
Yeah.
Lance, how are you doing, man?
I'm
It is so
great.
awesome to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So how's the retired life treating you?
Oh.
Or quasi-retired life?
Yeah, I just like to say that I'm on a quest to find the Holy Grail. That's all I'm doing.
Nice.
Right. So that was a joke for my son that I just couldn't pass up. But yeah, I'm young. I'm only 47, but I did just recently retire, and so
That's what I'm talking about.
It has been glorious.
Yes.
That is the plan. How did you do? How did you retire at 47?
That is a big, long story.
Give me-
how much of that story do you want?
Give me the Spark Notes version of that. Okay.
Well, I was a dentist for 20 years.
Uh-huh.
So I had a very focused and hardworking career for a good 20 years. I started several offices. I managed several offices. I managed to parlay what I made in that into different real estate investments. My real estate investments grew enough that I got to the point that I could live off the investments. And then my body blew up on me, and it gave me the chance to step away from dentistry.
So being a physical therapist myself, how did your back deal with being a dentist?
That's what
Is that
blew
what
me
broke
up.
down on you?
That's what broke down on me.
People do not understand how
Yeah.
hard that job is.
Yeah.
That is.
You know, interestingly enough, I never had issues with my wrists or hands or carpal tunnel issues. I never had issues with my neck. Those are usually two of the three things that take people out of dentistry. But my back did not make it. So L4, L5, L3, L4, that's where I had trouble in my lumbar region of my back. Yeah. So
Got it.
I've had 3 back surgeries in the last couple years.
Oh,
and, recover and retrain from that. And so it just was finally, it got to the point where it blew up on me. I could deal with the pain. The pain, as an athlete, you deal with pain. The good athletes are the ones that can endure the pain. Being a good athlete is really about pain management and some skill and some training.
Yeah.
And some God-given talent.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but the more you can endure pain, the better you are. So I could always deal with the pain, but my last issue with my back actually caused drop foot on my right side.
Got it.
That
Okay.
has not resolved. So I've only got about 20% resolution on my right side with the drop foot, and that was just enough to go.
Yeah.
Do I?
That will end a triathlon career
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
But it will birth a wonderful cycling career.
Yes.
Correct. There you go.
So for those of you that don't know Lance Heppler, he is a phenomenal athlete, and his athleticism kind of goes way back when to growing up as a kid. He was accomplished athlete. But tell us a little bit about your collegiate career. You were a pretty decorated collegiate athlete, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I was a decathlete in college. I actually walked on the track team at BYU, at Brigham Young University in Utah. And I was a decent high school athlete, but not phenomenal at any one event. So that's why I gravitated towards the decathlon, because I tend to be decent at every event instead of great at everyone. And so the combination of being decent at all of those, I did well as a decathlete.
You know what track and field athletes call decathletes?
Tell me.
Athletes. They're like real athletes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I loved it. My college career was fantastic. I competed all 4 years. I took third a couple of times in our conference meets, so I was never the champion or anything.
But
BYU,
BYU,
I scored points.
I mean, that's not
a very good conference
Yeah,
too,
it's
right?
not
Matt?
a
Is
joke.
that-
No,
yeah.
no,
It was
they're
in the
the real
WAC
deal.
back then.
In the WAC. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, BYU's team is, that's
So you were a
program.
decathlete all 4 years.
Correct.
Why, is that common? I mean, I know some people kind of develop into decathletes at some point.
I wasn't good enough at anything else. And so I'm like, I've got to stick to this.
Yeah.
I was a decent triple jumper, which is not part of the decathlon. And I was a decent javelin thrower, believe it or not. So I would end up competing in those two open events too at most meets. So I'd do my decathlon the first two meets, and then I'd come back the next 2 days and still do the triple jump and still do the javelin. So he would have me that. So
You had some busy weekends
yes,
in college, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. I loved college. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah. But
Now, when you went to dentistry school after that, what was your next athletic endeavor? Because I'd imagine you go from decathlon to you still got to be doing something.
I really needed to be doing something, and for 4 years in dental school, I did nothing.
I think that's what you see a lot of track and field athletes, or that's what I've noticed is like you finish that college career and it's like there's no support and you're expected to work an epic ton of hours, whether you're starting your career or you're going on to like further school work or whatever it is, and people just stop. Because it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Go run a 5K or something? Like, no, they've been competing at a pretty high level conference or whatever, and there's not an opportunity for you to like bust out the decathlon skills while you're putting in
they did not
80
translate.
hour weeks. Yeah,
dental school was a 120-hour week gig for 4 years. Yeah. Plus, I was recently married. Plus, I had 2 kids in dental school. So, and we were managing an apartment building. So those were my dental school years were hard years.
So almost made dentistry feel easy once you got to get into the actual
Once I got
profession.
out, I'm like, what? I just have to work 8 hours a day? Fantastic. Sign me up. I can do that.
Oh, that's good stuff. When you were a decathlete, what was your favorite discipline?
I was good at the jumps. I was a good hurdler. I was a good long jumper and high jumper, believe it or not.
Yeah, that makes
Even though
sense
I'm
to
only
me.
5'10".
I was about to ask how tall you are,
Only
but I
5'10".
didn't want to, seem too presumptuous there.
You probably had a pretty decent vertical leap, didn't you?
Yeah.
You-
I mean, I've high jumped 6'6" before, and I'm only 5'10", and so that for a decathlete, it's a collegiate decathlete. That's decent.
Yeah.
So I was competitive there.
You got good hops. That's a good sign of power.
Yeah.
And we have a term when we go on our group rides. It's called lancing.
fun.
We'll all be cruising along. We have a nice pace line going, and then all of a sudden Lance comes up with an imaginary finish line, and he's off to the races, and he lances the whole group, laying down massive watts, and just explodes. And he's such a powerful guy that you could see the whole bike flexing back and forth. And like, oh God, hold it together there, Mike. You can do this. But yeah, Lance is he's known for these little powerful bursts, and it's always a good time. But he's definitely.
I have the ability to hold about 1,400 watts for about 5 seconds. That's it.
Yep.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I can do it for about 5 seconds.
Yep.
But yeah, in a long sprint where you're doing it for 30 or 40 seconds, I can't hang. But
There you go.
The sides of this table are very unbalanced right now. We have Jake and Lance on one side putting out 1,400 watts, and Matt and Evan on the other side putting out 400 watts. Okay. So
Big sprint, epic sprint. Yeah, the two of us together can't take one of you down. So
exactly.
that's
there's a reason for my madness for doing that, because when we're out group riding, I'm trying to prepare for circuit races or for crits or for PIR races, which is like a 2-mile circuit race, and so you're always trying to cover moves or go off the front or whatnot, and I needed that sprint power.
Yep.
Even though just for a few seconds. And after sitting on the wheel, it was a group ride, which is fantastic for an hour and a half. I needed to
open them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know what? Don't kid yourself. Those are some of my most favorite memories and most favorite parts of the group rides. It's like all of a sudden the whole thing just blows up and it's like, go get them! You know, and everybody's trying to chase down Lance to get to wherever his imaginary finish line is. We're kind of guesstimating, but... And usually it's like, oh, I've already passed, and right as you're coming around. Oh, it's all good times, though.
Now,
So.
around here, do you guys do town line sprints?
Yes.
Do you guys
Yes.
still have that? Okay,
Yes.
I was wondering in this
City limit-
area,
city limit
sprints,
signs.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
And
it.
obviously in rural areas,
Yeah.
like where I used to ride quite a bit, that was the thing. It was if there's a town line coming up,
Yes.
you kill your. It's the green jersey points right there.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Yeah, those are always a good time. I remember when I first moved here and people would be jumping, I'm like, oh, they do it up here too. So I had to learn where all of the city limit signs were so I'd stop getting left behind. So fun stuff. So Lance, are you still setting an alarm clock these days?
No, I turned my alarm clock off. It is fantastic. The first time in 30 years for me, I've turned the alarm clock off. So
I never envied the work schedules that you would keep, especially when you were commuting between here in Vancouver area to Astoria.
Yeah.
That was nuts. So
You commuted to Astoria.
Well, I owned 3 dental offices for a number of years,
Okay.
and one here in Vancouver, Washington, one in Silverton, Oregon, which is about an hour away, and then one in Astoria, Oregon, which is about an hour and a half away.
Just the opposite direction.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
I had those offices because they were opportunities that came up that I couldn't pass up. It's not like I need to pick somewhere an hour and a half away. So I bought these offices. Actually, I took them over. They were failing offices, and the guys that really needed help, and I was able to turn those offices around for them. And so it all worked out very well. But I would work Monday through Thursday in my Vancouver office, and I would usually commute to Silverton or Astoria every Friday, and sometimes on Saturday too. So
you have deserved this retirement.
Yeah.
Haven't you?
it's been a long.
You need to buy that nice bike and just ride that thing wherever you want.
Well, the problem is I have a garage full of nice bikes, but I try to keep my wife out of the garage.
N+1, right?
Yes, I do.
Don't look in the garage.
So please don't go in there.
So at what point in time did you get that cycling bug? When did it really take root with you? Because, I mean, we've seen you out there on the cyclocross bike, racing mountain bikes, racing road bikes, time trialing, doing everything on a bicycle. When did that really take root inside of you?
Well, this is kind of an interesting story, and it's probably a story that's pretty similar to a lot of people because once I got through dental school and I got a little bit of my own time back, I played soccer for a number of years, believe it or not, and then I tore my ACL, and so I had the surgery, healed up from the ACL, and I needed to do something that wasn't so much
Side to side.
Yeah, side to side. So somebody mentioned triathlon, and I thought, I want to do that.
Like there's zero side to side
Yeah,
movement there.
it's all straightforward.
and I like doing lots of things.
Yeah, it's only 3 things.
Yeah.
Big deal.
30%, maybe.
the perfect sport for a decathlete because you don't even have to be good at any of those 3. You just got to be average.
Right. The only thing is, decathlon is all speed and power, and
none of
triathlon is all endurance, right? It's all slow twitch, muscle fiber, and it's all endurance. So I swam in high school, so I had a little bit of history there. Plus I was, and I thought, I can learn how to bike, And so I signed up for, I have the classic old guy triathlon story. I started with a few sprints. I did well. I moved up the ranks pretty quickly. I immediately gravitated towards long distance triathlon because that's where the glory is, right?
The glory.
And then you did the Ironman, didn't you?
And then I went right to Ironman.
Because that's basically a sprint.
Yes. It's only 9 or 10 hours, right? Big deal. So, so within the first, I had a 5-year stretch there where I did 40 or 50 triathlons and I did 3 Ironman races. And
very cool.
I did Ironman Florida twice, and I did Ironman Canada once. And I had about an 18-month stretch where I completely focused my whole life around my Ironman training. All my businesses suffered. My family life suffered. my church service suffered. All that stuff kind of suffered, but I was focused on doing Ironman triathlon. So I went to Canada with the goal of qualifying for Kona, and I missed it by 90 seconds.
That story needs to get told. Do you know who beat you? Like, could you see him?
Absolutely.
How happy was he after that race?
It was pretty ugly. I was at Canada. I had trained really hard for it. I swam 58 minutes or something like that. Wow. Canada has a couple of mountain passes you go over, and I biked like 512, which was decent.
That's a strong bike on that course.
Yeah. And then I'm a decent runner, but not a great runner. I'm decent at all three. I don't excel at all three. I didn't excel at all three events, and so I started the marathon, and I was done by mile 13. I had just gone too hard. But
should have done the half.
I had a coach. That's right. I had a coach who kind of knew where I was in my age group, and he was barking at me, which was fantastic. So it really kind of kept me moving through the rest of that marathon. I came to the last 4 miles, and I knew that I was within 1 or 2 places of possibly qualifying. And so I just, classic athlete, I just bared down and went for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I physically remember the running down the last mile and running so hard that I could see my vision narrowing. Like it was all going gray on the sides.
Tunnel vision.
Yes, it was all narrowing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to pass out. I need to slow down. So I had to back off a little bit. And actually, in the last mile and a half, I got passed by one more guy, and I was shot. I mean, I hit the finish line, and I was shattered. I gave everything I had. I only ran like a 3:58 marathon.
Hey, under 4 hours after that bike is nothing to shake your head at. Yeah.
So it was, and after that, and finding out I just missed, and I was in the med tent for 3 hours or something, because I had to have 2 IVs because I was even though I did the nutrition right, but I was just kind of shattered.
You can bury yourself, which I think is like that's a problem, and it's there's nothing. I mean, it's definitely admirable, but it's also like, did you take a step back and look at like, okay, well then, family life suffered, church life suffered, work life suffered, and I buried myself. I'm in here getting like
2 IV bags,
right? And then did you just like, I'm done with this?
I was out of balance.
Yeah.
My life was definitely out of balance because I was so focused on that. And I knew that I had done as well as I could have.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
That's good.
That's an awesome realization to come to, because I think, especially in triathlon, the one main difference I think I see in triathlon versus cycling and running is that cyclists and runners seem to have better balance over their life. Triathlon hours-wise can throw you so far. I mean, you think about your top runners in the sport. Your best runners are running 15 to 20 hours a week, sometimes a little bit more with strength training. So their training weeks can get up to about 20, 25 hours. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon to see amateur triathletes training that many hours.
Yeah, that's true.
While working with families too. So it's,
Right.
I mean, that balance can get thrown so out of whack.
Yeah. So after the triathlon, I thought, I'll just run marathons. That's easy.
Tone it down.
So for the next 5 years, I ran like 17 marathons. So I just, and that didn't take as much time.
It's so much easier, right? Get up, you go for a run,
ridiculous.
You come home, and the kids wake up, right? It's like, that's much more reasonable.
And I did it for fun. I did qualify for Boston and ran that a few times, and
which was today.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do not have a runner's body. I'm a big guy. When I'm in race weight, if I'm at race weight, is like 185 for me. I like to say I'm
at 1,400 watts,
thick.
though. So.
Yeah. So all that speed and power training my whole life, I'm just not thin. I don't have a runner's body. So what happens if you don't have a runner's body and you're running all the time? You break down. Mm-hmm. So my knees are shot. So I, blew out my knees. I had back problems, and I don't know if all my back problems are from the 10,000 miles of running I've done on a big body, or if it's 20 plus years of bending over people's mouths doing dentistry. But those are the things that eventually took me out, which led me to cycling. Woo! Because bad knees don't matter in cycling.
Yep.
And my back issues haven't bothered me that much in cycling either until I started cyclocross racing because of my competitive streak. Because you're off the bike and running.
Yeah.
So
there's the final picture of your last cross race that we have of Lance basically like yard sailed under the team tent, on his back, arms flailed out, legs flailed out. It just looks like somebody like just put it to him and he was done. And we all thought it was just because he had done his second race of the day, but there was a little bit more to that. And your back was pretty much done, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the next morning that I woke up with drop foot and I realized I'd herniated another disc during the race.
Yeah.
Worth it still. It's got to be worth it because everybody I've talked to is cyclocross. It just seems like of all the sports we all do in the endurance world, that seems to be the sport that has got to be the most fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
I have yet to meet the person who's like, yeah, I did a cyclocross race and it wasn't for me.
Yeah,
except for
me.
Matt.
Matt's done one race and it wasn't at the best venue. I'm going to pull him out.
Spinning. No, I just don't like cyclocross. No, so
What is wrong with you?
So Lance, you only started cyclocross like 2 years ago?
That's right.
And you absolutely crushed it from what I saw. Like every result, it seemed like you had done extremely well, like basically crushed the field.
Well, you start at Cat 5.
Yeah, I know you start off.
And I have a big engine and I have some power that I can lay out and I have good bike handling skills.
I think that's more important than people actually realize, yeah.
And in cyclocross, it rewards power and bike handling.
Yeah.
So if you have power and bike handling, you're gonna do okay.
Which is two things I don't have.
So, first race, how did you do? Of cyclocross.
The first one I ever done, I actually won my first 3 races.
Okay, that was what I was getting to. And the next race, and the next race, win. It was a funny streak. And you finally got a phone call from Oregon Bicycle Racing Association letting you know, or an email letting you know, like, hey, Lance, it's time to move up. And you moved up, and what did you do again?
So they moved me from a Cat. I did 3 races. They moved me to a Cat 4. I did 3 races. I won 2 of them and was second another. So in a span of 6 days, I did those 3 races in 6 days. So Candy from OBRA, the Oregon Bike Racing Association, she calls me and said, you're going to have to move up to a Cat 3. I don't know if I've ever known somebody that has done that in 6 days.
I was about to ask if that's the fastest. I mean, I've heard of fast upgrades. Like I've seen kids in a season go from 5 to 3, but not in 6 days.
Yeah, it was a little ridiculous. And Cat 3 is about the right spot for me because I'm old and I if I have a really good day, I can, place. I can podium if I have a really good day, but it's a really competitive thing for me. Interestingly enough, I don't think I'm the fastest. Robert Cummings on our team, he did the same thing in cyclocross. He started as a 5 and blew through categories.
Okay, check this out for trajectory. Kid started the same time that you did. Cat 5 did his first ever cyclocross race. This was not this past season, but the season before. So that would be 2016. We catted up, and I think by the end of the season, he was a Cat 2.
I think you're right.
And then he started last season as a Cat 2 and finished the season getting his pro card.
Yes.
And was at the National Cross Championships in the men's elite, which is like the creme de la creme. I mean, he was in that race. And, for all intents and purposes, did pretty well for a guy that just started cyclocross racing 2 years prior.
2 years, yeah.
He is nuts fast.
Yeah. Speaking of people we'd like to talk to.
Oh, he's already agreed to come on. And once we get our technical Skyping stuff worked out, which will be very soon, he's going to come on the show. So good stuff.
Yeah.
But, Lance is one of those people that is responsible for getting me into cyclocross, and basically it boils down to I always looked at cyclocross like, why do you want to get off your bike and ride through the sand and jump over barriers and run up and down stairs? I'm like, that's not bike riding. That's what are you doing? Get on your bike and ride your damn bike. Well, it was one of those things where you're on Strava and you start seeing cross racing coming around. Oh, you're at cross practice. Yeah, have fun jumping over stuff. Yada yada yada. And then they go to the first race and you see all the pictures get posted up. You're like, wait a second, these guys have way too many smiles on their face and there's too much like excitement going around and everybody's talking about how good of a time they're having. And I start seeing more and more of these as the weeks go on. I'm like, wait a second, I don't like it when people have fun without me. I need to get out there and be a part of this process. And Lance was one of those ones that was out there having way too much fun. I'm like, I don't like that he's having fun without me out there. And he's out there crushing it. I'm like, maybe I need to go check out. And so I went out and watched the race. And then finally it was just this past season. I went ahead and like, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. Picked up a cross bike and took it out for a ride. And I've worked on a bunch of them and I've ridden them up and down the street. Never taken one off road. Went out and rode the bike and gosh, I think I went out for about twice as long as I was supposed to. And it's like, holy crap, where have you been all my life? It's like the best of all worlds. It's like my road bike that I love and my mountain bike that I love in one bike. And I'm like, this is glorious. This is awesome. And went out and did some racing and fell in love with it. And I really cannot wait until it comes back up again this season. It's super, super fun.
Cross racing is it's 45 minutes of max heart rate.
Yep.
So it's just 45 minutes of suffering.
Yep.
But there's always a crowd. It's always a party. There's always spectators. It's
the atmosphere.
The atmosphere
I think
is fun.
Is really what drew me in thinking it's so similar to cross country, which is like there's a lot of nostalgia
Tight
feels
courses.
for that, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, oh man, I'm gonna love this, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have cowbells, you have all of this atmosphere. People are just like hurling insults at you.
Oh
like,
yeah, the heckling.
like,
I love
this
it.
this is my bag, baby. I'm
Yeah.
gonna love this. And I got out there, and I think it is probably lack of power. Lack of bike handling skills. Just these little pieces I'm missing from the puzzle to actually enjoy it. But
That sounds so much more fun tun like maybe we should try Xterra. Maybe Xterra's like that. I've never done an Xterra race.
I've done a couple Xterra races, and they're fun. But again, the bike course is going to be 12, 15 miles long. It's not a tight course like cyclocross race.
Yeah,
So
you're not going to
circuit
have
style.
You won't have crowds just like forming and heckling and
Yeah, heckling's a big thing.
That sounds
hilarious.
so much more fun.
Which is
you should just go. We should just go watch some. You don't have to actually participate.
Maybe we should stop this triathlon thing next year and go to cyclocross.
Well,
if you're anything like me, you will end up gravitating.
Yeah, it's a good time. I enjoy the guy that. There's a couple of them actually. I've seen they get those little PA systems at Costco that they're playing their music, and so you got some cool tunes going on as you ride by. But then all of a sudden they pick up the microphone and they start yelling at you like this, like crazy, and say like you almost fall off your bike laughing because of the insults they're throwing at you. Yeah, we got to get Jerry on the show too. Jerry's one of our teammates. He's the captain of all the insults and the encouragements that are just like wicked funny. So. Oh, good stuff. All right, so hey, let's kick into next gear. Let's get into our Backpedal segment and kind of run around the table here and talk about what we did last week. And Matt, you wanna share with us how your weekend went?
Sure. Yeah. I think before we started, we were just chit chatting, and I was telling these guys that I did get on a bike trainer and rolled through a horrible workout. It was like an hour and a half on the bike trainer, and I'm just out of shape. But I am probably gonna participate in a race next weekend. So nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll probably. It's a duathlon, so it's a 5K, 40K, 5K format, and I'll probably jog at least the first 5K, and then push hard on the bike, and then hop off and see how the last 5K goes. I mean, I'm not in great shape. I think it'll be fun to participate, hopefully. But
if the sun's shining.
Yeah, no, I think we'll see.
It's
on a Sunday, so it'll be. We'll see. Yeah, we'll just kind of.
The forecast does say 60s and
that might be one of those things that gets you motivated to be like, okay, get off your fat ass. I don't know. What's the rating?
Keister.
Yeah.
Keister.
Okay. Is that the nice way to say it? Okay.
Earmuffs, kids. Earmuffs.
So nothing too big this weekend, and we'll just kind of go from there. Did you guys race?
No. I had a race. How about you, Evan? Did you race this past weekend?
No, I'll wrap up my weekend super quick. Lots of long training. and lots of time on the trainer and treadmill. So that was my weekend in the end.
That does not sound fun.
All indoors.
I did do a running gait analysis at Movement Revolution for an awesome group of people.
Awesome.
How's that?
Had a lot of people there. It was fun.
I was at Movement Revolutions before
you left right
showed
before.
up. Yeah.
I know. I was hoping we could take a peek at Matt's, but
Ooh, that's be ugly.
we'll see.
Yeah.
There'll be a promotion video coming out of it. Actually, the guy who does all the videography there,
Justin. Yeah.
Yeah, Justin's awesome. Really, really nice guy.
Good stuff. Yeah, there were a couple races this week, and we had the Coast Hills Classic mountain bike race yesterday down there. I think it was near Newport,
Waldport.
Okay.
Yeah, which is right. Yeah, I think it's Waldport.
Yeah, I did not attend that, but I did get to see quite a few of the pictures and some of the race reports, and I hear it was quite the muddy affair. Whitney Phillips, one of our teammates, had a picture posted up on, it must have been Instagram or Strava, and we've got a pretty not loud, but it's pretty bright kit, that orange.
It's an awesome kit.
He was mud. I mean, you couldn't even tell what team he rode for. Like his
see
whole
that it was
face,
orange.
was everything. The whole front of his body was just mud brown. So it was.
But he had a smile on his face.
Oh yeah. You could definitely see those pearly whites poking through. So it was kind of a funny picture. And then we had the Kings Valley Road Race on Saturday, which is kind of one of our local classics that's been around for a lot of years. I think they've been around for over 20 years,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. So that went really well. We
With
had
an uphill finish, right?
with an uphill finish.
Yep.
Yeah.
How long was that uphill finish?
Oh, I think the last 3 miles is just kind of stair steps, and then I think the actual climbing finish itself is probably about 2,000 meters ish. I'd have to go back and double check that, but it's a nice little finish. I mean, it's not a long climb, but it's it pitches up a little bit, and you have to work for it towards the end. So we had just about every field, I think, with the exception because we had no Robert Cummings. For the P12s, but we had just about every other field. We had a pretty good representation in there. We had the 4.5s. We had Mike Guyvan, who did pretty well. He finished top 10. It was 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
6th, I think.
Was it 6th?
Yeah.
Okay. He did pretty well. Then we had Kim Catherine came in 3rd, so she found the podium in the women's.
Where is she now? What is she on 3s or 4s?
She's still working on getting her points. This is her first road racing season, so
yeah,
she is quickly piling up the points.
yeah.
She actually might even be there to cat up.
Yeah, she's gonna move up quick. She's
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
She's definitely not a Cat 5 road racer. She's too freaking strong.
Yep.
And so she found the podium, and then we had our Masters 40s with myself and Chris Hannell and Sean Martin, and Gene Fez was out there as well. So we had a really good plan that played out almost to a T. I mean, we had got on Strava earlier in the week, not Strava, I'm sorry, on Zwift earlier in the weekend, had a little Discord chat about how we wanted the race to go, and we came up with about 3 different plans, option A, B, and C, and we pretty much had our A option play out for us, and we got the podium. We put Chris Hannell on the podium with a monstrous effort that he had. It was fantastic to watch him lay it down out there, and it was kind of fun to kind of work through the different tactics that we had came up with prior and watch it all play out exactly the way that we wanted it to. So that's just a good testament to paying attention to your competitors and knowing what they typically are going to do. And I got a chance to kind of go out there and bait some people, and Sean and Martin and Chris Hannell did everything that they needed to do beautifully, and Chris ended up finishing the last, I'd say probably about 10 miles, 8 to 10 miles, I'll correct that later if it's wrong, solo off the front, and we put in enough work, or he put in enough work, and we were able to hold the field back as much as possible for him to finish and get the win, like not even close. I mean,
Right.
He probably finished at least 1,000 meters ahead of everybody else. So
It was like 30 seconds or 20 seconds or something. He finished ahead of
it
second
was
place.
Yeah, it was a big gap, and I know that he probably took his time. If he wanted to, or if he had to, he could have got after it on that climb. But I'm sure he kind of just moseyed into it, knowing that he had already expended himself, and there was no reason to to pour it all out. But
And did you guys sprint at the end? Did you guys have fun?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. So, man, I've really got to sit down and figure out some stuff that's going on with my body, because I dealt with cramps again, and it was pretty nasty. So I did what I could to kind of pull up the hill, and usually I can get out of the saddle and really kind of lay down the watts for that last 1,000, and it just wasn't there. I had to stay seated and had to spin, and people came around me. So I think I finished 5th place, and which was
about
fine.
Sean?
Sean was, I believe, 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in there. And for him to finish there after the work that he did, that's huge.
Yeah.
He's grown so much as a cyclist too. I mean, just a year and a half ago, I mean, he was a completely different specimen, and then over the past year, he has developed and gained so much that it puts a big smile on the face.
We need to have him come on the podcast. He'd be good.
Yeah, he's a good
just
guy.
improved so much in basically 1 year of 1 or 2 years of cycling. He's gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
so
he's completely changed. He's 180 degrees, and he's one of our strongest cyclists on the team now, it's a lot of fun. So
I'm curious, the three of you kind of stayed with the front group. You kind of controlled pace and speed. There were a few times that you attacked, and then the field would recover, and you would attack, and the field would recover, and then during one of those recovery, that's when Chris went.
That's pretty close to what happened. So we knew the course. We knew exactly how the course was going to play out and where we could put in some efforts and some digs. We knew where the winds would typically kick up so that we can kind of attack into those as well. And our primary goal was really to get some of the bigger guys from the other teams to do work and burn a few matches. And a lot of times in these races now, every time I will personally go off the front, it's like everybody gets out of the saddle and they sprint and ride them on back wheel. So there's really not much I can do there. So in talking with him, it's like, all right, well, let's use that. Let's use me as a decoy and come up with a time that we can get you and Sean. I'm talking about Chris and Sean off the front. So basically, that was our plan. So the first lap, we had to go up that finish climb 3 times. And we were able to get Chris to gap off the front. He floated off the front, and everybody was letting him go because nobody else was with him, and it was really early in the race. I'm like, all right, well, let him do what he's ever going to do. He's going to get out there and cook himself. But, if you don't know Chris, the guy's got an engine for days, and he can get really small, and he's got a big FTP, and he can just go and go and go. He's a great time trialist. So he floats off the front. We come up to that climb. I'm like, well, here's a spot where we can make the guys work. I'm going to basically come out of the field, and I'm going to basically attack with about 700, 800 meters to the top, and see who comes with me and see who's going to burn some matches and get some of these big guys, because it's not going to be about me today. It's about getting Sean or Chris, whoever's feeling the best, out off the front and to finish on the podium. And sure enough, got out of the saddle, and this was the one thing that kind of killed me, and this could have played a part in me getting cramps. I just put new cleats on my shoes a couple days prior, and the stupid thing came out of my pedal. Why or how, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was still kind of smooth, or I don't know. I didn't do anything different. But in the process of that happening, my foot came up and hit the bottom of the water bottle, my rear bottle, and it booted out of the bike. Went flying back through the field, and everybody was screaming water bottle, and I'm like, yeah, that I need that. I'm like, crap, can we just stop? Time out, game off. But I basically lost 20-ish ounces of electrolytes that I was going to need for I think at that point in time we still had like 45 miles to go. Let it go. I mean, it is what it is. And so I clipped back in and just started hammering up the hill, and one guy came with me. He's a pretty strong climber, pretty strong cyclist. And we bridged up to Chris, and I'm screaming at him from behind because I didn't know if he knew I was coming or not. And he finally made eye contact with me, and he got all giddy because he absolutely loves the breakaway. I mean, It's like a Labrador chasing a tennis ball. I mean, that's him in breakaways. So awesome. He loves them. So he hears me, and he spins up. I jump on his wheel. He lets me recover for a second, and the other guy comes around. And so we basically started pacelining with each other and just hammered the flat to the downhill section all the way back around to the start, which was for, I'm going to guess I think that ends up being about 6 miles back to the start or 5 miles back to the start. And then we went for even just a little bit further than that until the field actually ended up reeling us back in. But in the process of doing that, there was a lot of people that fell off the back. Unfortunately, we lost one of our teammates. I kind of felt bad about that. But it narrowed the field down a little bit. And then all the big guys had to work together to bring us back in. And everybody had to put that dig in on the climb. I'm like, good. They burned matches. We got Chris up over the hill without burning a single match. And then I wanted to put myself out there. So coming back around for the second lap,
because the field was digging to get you,
Jake.
Yeah.
So that's the decoy spot. So
how far was the gap at this point going into the second lap?
I think the biggest gap that we had that they had to close was probably 300, 400, 500 meters somewhere in there. I wasn't looking over my shoulder too much. I was just nose down, just trying to produce watts.
You guys were just dangling out there for that long. Like they
didn't want to let us get down the decline or the descent, and then on the flats. And then if we could have held it together and got to the rolling parts of the hills and started to dig into that, I think that there's a small, minute chance that we could have made it stick. But they were working really damn fast to get back up to us. I mean, we were working hard to hold 30 miles an hour, and I can imagine that they were all pretty much organized and going 32, maybe 33. So they started to close that gap over the course of those miles. But mission accomplished. I mean, they brought us back in. And then the goal for us was on that second lap was to, again, have me go out and put another attack on the field and get them to answer. And then once they brought me back in, it was going to be us sending Sean and Chris off at that point in time after, just to create another attack situation. Maybe they would get tired or they would just let it go because I wasn't there. So we kind of did that. That was the part that was just a little bit different than what we wanted. I kind of went up and baited them off the front once, and Sean came up with me. And then they answered that, and then I let Sean go, and he ended up getting a pretty good gap out there, and he was maybe, I'd say 10 seconds out of the front, and then that started to slowly, steadily grow, and then I kind of fell back just a little bit because I wasn't going to do work to bring in a teammate, and some people started coming around me, and then Chris came up and said, "Hey, is it time?" I'm like, "Yes, it's time, but don't take anybody with you. Don't take the whole field." So he was very good about that. Basically came up to the front, put an attack in to go catch up to Sean. Whole field jumped with him, and then he stopped, and then he jumped again, and they didn't go that time. And he basically was able to bridge up to Sean.
That is impressive fitness to be able to jump and then jump. Was that almost simul? Was that like a jump, catch, jump?
It was probably within about 20 or 30 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. That is incredible. So
wow.
And that's just
Chris.
That's a testament to his engine. This guy can go for days. So he ends up getting up there with them, and I came up to the front and just started going slower,
blocking,
not doing work, and making casual conversation with people, trying to distract them from the fact that these two guys are going from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40, and I think they ended up getting probably about a minute out there. And so we came around for that second lap, went up over the top, and then they started to say, what, they're out of sight. We need to start working together. And I'm trying to disrupt as much as I can, not doing work and just kind of being in the wrong spot. Like, oh, golly gee, am I in your way? I'm sorry, kind of thing. And they finally, like, hey, if you're not going to work, get out of the way. I'm like, all right, you got me. And I just sat back and didn't do any work. And there was other people that were pretty petered out at that point in time. And we worked really hard, they worked really hard. And I just kind of sat in. And then Sean ended up kind of coming off a little bit because he did a lot of work for Chris to get Chris to where he was at, and it was probably with about 8 or 10 miles to go that Sean came back into the group, and Chris knew that we had gotten to those rolling hills that we had talked about. That's where you don't give up. I mean, you don't give up until they physically bring you back into the field. You don't sit up just because you see them back there. And he did. He put his nose down and he just powered through those things. And he was probably about 10 seconds, and then he was 20, and then he was 30, then he was 40. And I think that he was getting updates from the car that he was about 45 seconds ahead. And then it was at that point in time that the official car came around the field because he had grown the gap big enough. And Sean and I looked at each other and we just smiled and we said, yes. And it's just, there was the third leg out before we made the right-hand turn into the wind. We knew if we could get him to the wind, and if the official car was still there, that we think that we had it, because it was only 3 miles after that windy section to get to the finish. And pretty much as we hit that wind, like all the usual suspects and all the strong guys were up the front doing work, and they're like, I've had it. I'm not doing it unless anybody else is going to come up here and do work. I'm done. So there was almost a physical time where I had to grab brakes. I did. I had to grab brakes because they gave up and the field stopped that quick. And then I just kind of did a little fist pump, like, yes, we got him. We got him. He's out there. So, Chris got to the final climb, and nobody was going to chase him down because they're like, all right, well, it's going to be a field sprint for second place now because this guy's put too much time into us, and we knew we had it. So Sean and I just tried to put ourselves in the best position, and I'm dealing with some cramps and he was dealing with fatigue, but we wanted to get some more points for the team, and we did. I think collectively between the two of us, we probably brought in another 12 or 15 points for our team points, and Chris got the win. So it was mission accomplished, and it was like one of the best races that I've ever been in, just because it played out the exact way that we wanted it to play out, and it was fun. Because these races are kind of notorious for just being like a big, throwdown for the end, and nobody does work, and there's not a lot of team tactics to go into it. So to have a plan, to go into it, to execute and have it work out was a thing of beauty. And I'm super proud of Chris. I'm super proud of Sean for the work that they did, and it was a fun race. So good stuff.
That's fantastic. Awesome. So cool to have a plan that actually works out, and having some backup plans and have enough teammates in a race that you can actually pull something.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah. Fun stuff. Lance, how was your weekend?
Mine was great. I have an interesting story, I guess. Obviously I'm recovering from this back surgery, and so I haven't been able to ride very much. And being retired, I've been playing with my kids and my dog a whole lot, and so that's been nice. But I went to do a group ride this Saturday out in the Columbia River Gorge. I know you guys talked about that a couple of weeks ago, I think. And we go to we're out in the Dalles area, and I'm not in very good shape right now. I'm trying to round back into shape a little bit, recovering from the surgery. Yeah. And so I only rode just about 50 miles, like 45 miles or something like that.
Perfect.
It was like 4,000 feet of climbing or something like that. So it was a fair amount of climbing out there.
Yeah.
And I've been really careful about what I've been eating lately. I've been trying to eat really cleanly because my clothes all shrunk.
Yeah,
so,
that happens.
I think that happens when it gets cloudy for whatever reason. It's like it gets cloudy and all the clothes shrink.
So I had to fix all my clothes. So I've been eating cleanly, and I get out there. I finished the ride. I kind of fell apart in the last 4 miles or something. I had completely bonked. I lost the group. I ended up breaking off early, so
Just
cut a section.
Small ring in it back.
Yes.
There you go.
So I get back to my truck. I make it there. I'm like, oh, fantastic. And then, for whatever reason, the nausea hit.
Oh no!
like top end or bottom end?
No,
issues?
top end.
Top
So,
end. Okay, good.
I'm trying to recover. I'm drinking water. I'm drinking replacement drinks, and I'm driving back from the Dalles, and I'm pulling over about every 5 miles and puking my guts out.
Oh, jeez.
So we have a segment here coming up. This called Training Airs. I think we need to in future segments talk about. I mean, Jake's over here as a physical therapist. I'm cringing at these things right now. Consistent muscle cramps. We got puking coming back from a ride.
Yes.
Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I showered the rest of the gorge with my vomit for about 20 miles.
You had you were on a group ride. It was a pretty good sized group ride. Who'd you ride with?
On Saturday mornings, there's a local Vancouver, Washington group called the Mari Group. It's named after a coffee shop that no longer exists, but the ride is still called
The legacy lives
Mari
on.
Group.
Very nostalgic group, I'm sure.
So it's mostly older guys. It's mostly guys in their 40s or 50s, but they're all, pretty good, hardcore, good cyclists.
Yep.
And in my fitness right now, I would have a difficult time hanging on the team ride, but the Mari group I can generally hang with.
There you go.
I'm usually accused of being a disruptor on the Mari group.
Would you happen to be out there lancing the group?
Yes, I've done that several times.
I would imagine a group that rides a ride of a coffee shop that doesn't exist anymore does not appreciate 1,400 watt sprints.
So I get some grief a little bit here and there for that, but yeah, they're a good group of guys, and so I rode with them, and I try to ride with them if I can't make the team ride, or if I don't think I can hang with the team ride, or if there's not a B group on the team ride.
I mean, the few rides I've went on, it does a good job of splitting itself up on Saturdays, right? I mean, is that still the case? I know in February that was.
They do, yeah. And I mean, when they do split up, we try and have some pre-designated regroup areas, and we have, if we know that we're going to have a pretty good size group, we try and have a B group leader so that we can kind of keep everybody together and keep tabs on everybody, make sure that everybody's A, having fun, B, safe, and C, like knows where they're going.
It's definitely one of the more organized groups in that sense that I've seen, because I mean, any listeners from Ohio here will crack up at this. Southern Ohio rides seem to be famous in at least that region for, all right, this is a no drop ride, and then everybody's yelling and hating each other halfway through the ride, and there's guys my age and younger blowing it up. So,
Right.
Good stuff. All right, so let's kick into this this next topic, Evan. You were the one that wanted to run through this when we all thought it was a fantastic idea. Common training errors.
And I mean, this is just so perfect because Jake just led me right into this with these chronic muscle cramps. This was So I think and I wanted to bring this up because I think I coached myself for years. Anybody who knows me knows that I was incredibly stubborn in triathlon earlier in my career. I wouldn't listen to anybody, wasn't going to let anybody coach me. And I trained I had good results, but I really trained myself into some really bad holes mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. And my best example, I'll just give one example, and then I'm sure Matt over here I know was also a volume junkie back in his running days, so he can speak to this. And me and Matt both agree that when you're somebody who can sustain those volumes, it's hard to sometimes know where that ceiling is and where those diminishing returns are going to pop up. And I used to do days that were, so when I graduated from PT school, like when you left dental school, I was very mentally burnt out after having worked on weekends, spent all, training 20 hours a week triathlon, going to class 8 to 5 every day and studying my brains out. And right when I was done, I had a very good friend of mine, Kit Hinders, who lives in right outside of Denver, right outside of Golden, Colorado. So I told him as soon as I graduated PT school, I'm going to live with you for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I go there, and me and him are very similar human beings. We like to train without computers. We like to train like they did in the 1800s, and we just ride hard and long, and that's it. And we're very competitive with each other. So I go there, and for the whole 4 weeks I was there, this was leading into the beginning of that triathlon season. I was training 30 to 35 hour weeks for 4 weeks straight. That was 60 some mile run weeks. That was 20-hour bike weeks. Wow. And this is at altitude. I'd never been at altitude before. I was lucky enough that I have a very high natural hematocrit, so I adjusted to the altitude very well. But what I did not, so this was the training error here, was I did not take into account the lack of quality sleep at altitude, and I did not take into account what that volume was going to do to me when race week came, when I came back down from altitude. In my head, I was thinking, oh, this is like the cyclists in the 90s when they would, dope themselves up and then go back and race these wonderful races. So I trained myself into a hole for 4 weeks, went back, and I did fine the race, but raced nowhere near where my fitness should have been, not even close. And I think it's, I see guys my age and younger, whether it's cycling, running, or triathlon, who have these engines, and I want a word of the wise or somebody who's made these mistakes. Just because you're able to train 20-hour cycling weeks consistently doesn't mean you should. Because you don't want to be the guy that wins the training war and loses every race. You want to be the guy that's actually getting results.
Yeah, train smarter, not harder.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Isn't one of the ways to kind of discover that about yourself is like taking your resting heart rate first thing in the morning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, if your resting heart rate first thing in the morning, if you can consistently take that, an endurance athlete, your resting heart rate might be 45 or 40 or something like that. And if you're overtraining yourself or doing too much, it's going to be
spikes.
50,
it's going to start to spike,
55. And that's, even though you might feel okay, that's a sign that, hey, I'm doing too much.
And this is, I think and this is why I wanted to bring up this topic, is because I really think it's, so all of us here are not professional athletes at this table. Are we? So
hold on. I got paid $15 to race last weekend with my win for my 5th place. So I got $15.
Did you
professional baby?
Did you get like a tire and a like water bottle too?
No, I was in an envelope. It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, if it's in an envelope, I don't know. Okay, so we have 3 amateurs at this table and Jake. So, but we all have what. So I've read a couple books talking about the cortisol response and stress response just in general. Not with athletes, but just with life in general. We all have 1 cup. I like to use this analogy for my patients. We don't have 3 cups. This isn't, you don't have family stress, job stress, and sports stress cup. It is all 1 cup.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking, okay, I'm sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night right now. I have 2 kids. I have a job. I have this and that. That is all going into the same cup. Now you add, okay, I want to try and do peak training leading into my favorite race right now. Yeah, that cup's going to overflow because kid stress, life stress, and job stress is not separate from that.
Correct.
And I think especially as guys who are younger in this sport start to develop into that whole life thing with the family and all that, you got to realize that you cannot be putting out those massive training weeks and expect to see results when you're only sleeping 5-6 hours a night, or all of a sudden you're not cooking for yourself anymore because you don't have time on the weekends, and now you're eating Subway, 5 times a week or something like that. Not, no knock on Subway there, but there's more nutritional options out there.
Yeah. I think that's a huge point, is that training stress is one type of stress, but for me, like travel stress, I see this a lot where it's like, if you have to travel to a race or whatever it is, like that's an additional stressor that you need to take into account. Like you can't do that and have that killer workout that you want to have, right? Where it's like, Lance, I'm looking at Lance because he travels quite a bit, but it's like, you hit the airplane, you do this stuff, you're not going to get great sleep that night, however it goes. But like, that's what I think people don't really realize. It's like, oh, well, I basically had the day off yesterday. Like I need to go hard tomorrow. Well, no, that was a stressor, and it's not the best stressor for you to like become a great athlete or whatever it is, but it was a stressor, and you need to take that into account when you're planning out your week. So,
in 2011, I ran a marathon on the Great Wall of China.
Oh wow,
That's outside of Beijing, and so of course, Beijing is not an easy place to get to.
Yeah,
it's and actually it was interesting because I was actually there. I actually have a master's in business as well. I've got an MBA as well, and it was during my schooling for MBA that our class was going to Beijing for like a 2-week thing. Yeah. And I'm like, hey,
hop in this, man.
There's a marathon
You are
on the Great Wall.
Yes,
totally.
It's on the Great Wall of China.
So so I went 5 days early so I could go run this marathon on the Great Wall, and you can imagine there's lots of up and down. It's 26 miles. I think it was something like 40,000 steps that you had to go up
stairs.
or down.
Oh,
stairs.
Is that like going to the moon?
Yes.
Like, is that like a staircase to the moon?
There was a section. There was a section that was like 5,000 steps, and it came at mile 23.
Oh God!
And so people were crawling up the steps. I actually stopped and took video because I was, laughing hysterically in my mind as I'm vomiting off the side at the same time, right? Just because it was so hard.
So did you run straight 26 to a point, and then did you? Okay, so it was out and back.
We did like 3 separate loops, and we did this one section of the Great Wall of China 3 different times, twice one direction and one the other, because you didn't run 13 miles out. And 13
was
miles
going
back.
downstairs terrible at some point? Oh my gosh,
absolutely terrible,
especially on your knees without that ACL.
Yes, that's right. My point is I detonated in that race, not only because it was difficult and all the climbing and all the downhill, but I traveled for 24 hours, 2 days before, and it was. Yeah, you just don't take into effect how much that can actually affect you. But.
Yeah, and this is where I think taper strategy is huge, and I think that's the problem with some of these training plans everybody draws up. Everybody's got this grand 3 or 4 week plan, and you nail all those numbers, and then you get to your taper week, and you read some weird article about, I should only drink pomegranate juice this week, and I'm going to still train high intensity, but I've got to fit in all this work because I'm going to be flying. So I've got 3 days of hard work, low sleep, take a red eye to the race, and all of a sudden your taper week just ruined 4 weeks of training right there.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Training smarter, not harder. That's a big thing. And that's kind of something for me too about common training errors, is just not really understanding your schedule to begin with. And then, tactically going about it completely incorrectly, or using the wrong kinds of metrics or sciences to make sure that you're making the proper progress and gains. If you're not, working with a coach and you're not following a structured program, you can't really expect to make, the gains that you want to make if you want to go out and be a successful, fill in the blank runner, cyclist, triathlete, what have you. And a lot of people I'll see them out there, and it's just they're training, but it's completely unstructured. They have no idea what they're doing. They're just go out and riding their bike, and they're attacking Strava segments, and they're going on these massive rides, and they're just doing all this haphazard stuff.
Zwift races
Guilty.
every week. Yeah, I'm gonna do an easy Zwift ride.
Yeah,
I have never in my life seen anybody actually go on an easy. Every single Zwift ride I bring up, they're like, "Oh, new watt record." I'm like, "You just set that last week. Like you're not gonna be able to keep this up."
And you can actually do a very functional Zwift ride, and if you jump into erg mode and set something up, predetermined plan with a preset program that you want to go out and accomplish, you can't go harder than you want to. You lose that option when
That's
you
a
go
good
into a
check.
training
Yeah.
plan. So you definitely stop chasing those carrots. Like if people come around you and pass you, you can spin as hard as you want. It just gets easier, and you're just spinning super fast with no resistance, and your guy's not going any faster. You're like, damn it! So it naturally puts you back into that mode of making sure that you're staying where you need to be. So that's a good way to kind of curb that. There's no way to really curb that when you're out there riding in real life, and you're chasing a Strava segment that pops up on your Garmin saying, "Oh, on your mark, get set, go," and you're going to go hammer this for 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it ends up being. But really just having a predetermined plan, riding with organization and riding with a purpose, and working with somebody that's holding you accountable. And for me, that's probably the most common training here for cyclists. If you want to, basically be peaked and ready to go for a race, you got to go about it the right way, and that's what you got to do.
You cannot train smarter without a plan. You have to have
Yeah.
a plan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think I'll let Matt talk to this too, because I know Matt has had a long period in his life where he was running 100-mile weeks.
Yeah.
And that is, I think we were just having this discussion, so we're kind of going from the cycling to the running triathlon world here. But there was a question, I was reading a blog talking about what is more stressful on the body, running a max marathon or doing an Ironman. And from a exercise physiology point of view, when you really look at it, actually running a max marathon is actually more stressful on the body, depending on the pacing that you're going. The breakdown musculoskeletally is very, very stressful. So it's definitely something to think about when you're starting to transition to that marathon training and realizing that, okay, I may have done 20 or 30 miles training when I was doing triathlon. Now getting into that 50, 60 mile group it may be less hours, but it is more stress on the body.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think they're different, right? Like, your pacing for an Ironman marathon is just pretty mellow compared to, when you're fit running wise and you're going hard in a marathon. And I really think, they're very different on your body. Like nutrition is totally different. The way your body's going to respond, like you're just going to be so much more beat up after a hard marathon where you're absolutely pounding the pavement hard. And you're probably even wearing like lighter shoes and thinner shoes and things like that, because you really need to turn it over faster. But yeah, in the Ironman distance, your body's beat up. It's just different. Like you expect to have this absolutely massive recovery afterwards. And so, yeah, I feel like they are different. I do feel like I've been beat up by both of them pretty badly. So I don't know if, they're different. They're just, they are both pretty tough. I wouldn't say one's harder or easier than the other, just different.
I did not have an opinion on it because I have not done a full Ironman or a full marathon, so my opinion means nothing here. So.
I can see your future, young man.
I've been much more shattered after a hard marathon than after an Ironman. And I think it's because, for me, I might be running 7-minute pace for a marathon.
Yeah.
But for an Ironman, I'm running 8:30s or 9-minute pace.
Yeah.
And you just don't have as much pounding, and so I didn't beat my legs up as much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, just different. But, and then I feel like you're exhausted in a different way, right? Like your whole body, like, you've completely depleted glycogen stores in an Ironman distance, right? Where it's like your body's
10
just
hours out there,
absolutely spent in a different way, right? So it's just...
That's what the med tent's for.
Yeah, the med tent.
Thank you, IVs.
How many IVs was that? Yeah. So
Thank you to all volunteers in med tents everywhere. So.
Good stuff. All right, so let's kick it forward into our one of our last segments that we have to bring up from time to time. Errors and omissions. Anything from anybody around the table here? I do have one thing that I think I brought up. Was Stephanie Rubalcava.
Yep.
We were talking about her. That's Derek's mom, who was doing her half Ironman a couple weekends ago in Oceanside. Well, anyway, she had her little crash, and we mentioned in there that she had to be resuscitated. That's my memory coming up with misinformation. So I will retract that. She was actually just in a really bad way, and I think that she was out, but she didn't have to be resuscitated. But we're just happy that she's alive and well and thriving. So and still with us and happy. So and we love her. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to recant on?
I didn't. I've been staying away from trying to say exact race times so that I don't have to be as consistent on the errors and omissions. But
I don't remember specifically, but I'm sure that there's quite a few errors.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so that'll be the one for the week, Lance. You don't have anything that you got to take back.
All of my numbers are soft. Everything's been estimated in my favor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lance's standard deviation is a good wide range there. So.
All right, so this is our one last thing. We're going to run around the table. Any one last things for you, Matt? Anything that you'd like to contribute to us?
Ooh, definitely. Definitely, I've had some really good feedback to the podcast, and definitely appreciate people listening. It's just been, it's been good. So, I don't have a one last thing specifically.
Did you make any videos since we last talked?
Oh, yeah. I did on the YouTube. I posted a video, and nothing too big. I'm gonna start posting some just little things like, one maybe like how I schedule my triathlon season, which I don't, really love. But and then another one that I'm gonna post at some point is like what's in my race bag, which I think is just funny, right?
Yeah.
So drop the race bag on the table, open up, and you just find weird stuff.
You know what? That might be a good podcast thing too. We can all just show up. Don't go through it beforehand. Just bring it in with you and just open up, and we'll just.
I'll make sure that I don't clean out after St. George and bring that in so you guys can see.
So look for this video. It'll go live here in the next couple of days or whatever. It's just like, because literally that's what I do is like I open it up and I'm just finding weird stuff, and I'm like, ugh, sorry that I'm showing you
I love the
this.
YouTube stuff.
And this is your first one of the season too, so that stuff's been sitting in there for.
Right?
I bet we should take bets on what's going to be in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can
Wet
take
dry
bets,
suit
take bets,
guaranteed.
and then have a look at this video because it's some of it's like this is going to either need to be washed or thrown away. Not sure yet. Some gross stuff. Yeah, check it out.
Funny.
Yep.
One last thing, Evan. What you got?
The classic season's wrapped up. There was definitely some awesome racing. If anybody wants to go back and watch, if you're on the trainer for a long time, listen to our podcast, of course, and then flip on like Amstel Gold was this last weekend. Paris-Roubaix was just a great. Anybody who sat there and doubted Peter Sagan's fitness this year, go watch what he did in Paris-Roubaix.
Unbelievable.
It
was
fantastic.
fantastic.
I mean, I was critical of the guy too, but like that. I mean, he decided that race he was going to show how much better he is than everybody else. Yeah. I mean, he literally beat, what is just an absolute machine of a team in Quick Step. So, yeah.
That was fun.
That definitely was. But, yeah, that and the beginning of the ITU season is really getting heated up. So we'll have some fun little race breakdowns of, you know, how, God, they're so fast.
So good.
So fast.
Crazy. Lance, one last thing.
I'm going to tell a Jake story. So,
Good.
Actually, last year we were on a training ride with the group. Matt may have been there or not, but we did this flat training ride where we pacelined pretty hard. And there, as a group, there were 8 or 10 of us. We tend to ride 27, 28, 30 miles an hour, something like that. And it's 12 or 15 miles. So we're all working pretty hard. But at the end, of course, there's a sprint section.
Yeah. The beach's ride.
The
Okay,
beach
now I
is
remember.
right.
Now.
I'm sorry, Matt. That's probably why you're not sure if Matt was there or not.
Right.
That's rude. That's rude. Yeah.
Matt's strong on that ride.
Yes,
He gets in that
he
TT
is.
bike.
I remember I was there until I wasn't there, which was when he's talking about the sprint section. Yes.
So near the end of the ride, of course, Jake is a powerhouse, and so he has blasted me on every sprint that I have done. And so I told myself at the beginning of the ride, I'm just going to stick on Jake's wheel for the last mile. I'm not going to go around him because we'd been all going around. I'm just going to stick on his wheel because I am going to get him today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I get on Jake's wheel. We pull to the front, and we ended up losing everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just me and Jake. Jake is humming along. We're doing 31 or 32 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on his wheel. We're getting closer to the end, and I'm thinking, yes, I've got him. I have got him. He is right where I want him to be. I'm going to come roaring around him. So I'm sitting on the wheel. I'm all jacked. I'm waiting to pounce. I get off my seat and my pedals to go, and Jake rides away from me.
Yeah.
He just left me in the dust.
Was that like as soon as you left his draft, you realized
Yes.
how fast you guys were going?
Yes. and so not only did he pull for the last mile and a half, but then he just rode away from me. And I pulled off the side of the road and I went, what am I doing out here? I am in the wrong sport. I thought I was totally primed in this, but that just goes to show how powerful Jake is.
Yeah.
So
He's way too humble over there.
yes, he is. So I wanted to tell the Jake
you.
The
story.
sun was out that day. Oh, thanks for the story, Lance. Those are always good times. Can't wait to get back out there with you and mix it up this summer.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, you're coming along strong too. Good job. My one last thing, I just wanted to come back to the road race that we had this past weekend out there at Kings Valley, and first thank the promoters for putting on a wonderful race in a beautiful part of the state of Oregon. But just wanted to just give a big shout out to Chris Hannell and Sean Martin for the excellent work that they did in that race. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the guys in the 50s too, and just say how awesome of a job that they did. Ian Gibson and Michael Myers and who else was in there? Whitney Phillips was in there. I mean, those guys worked together fantastically as well. And kind of a funny story. There was two guys that got away from the group in the beginning of that race, and nobody knew that they got away. Nobody was paying attention.
Sneaky.
So they thought that there was like a rumor that somebody had gotten away, and how they lost track of them, I don't know. I wasn't in the race. Head scratching moment, but long story short, they all did a phenomenal job of working together as well, and they supported Michael pretty well, and he's so flipping strong right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he rode the group off his wheel, if I'm not mistaken, if I got my story right. That might have to go into Arizona Missions next week. But anyway, he came across the finish line, fist pumping, and
Third.
third place. But still such a solid finish, and it was good to see those. And Kim Catherine was out there, and she is off to an amazing start in her road cycling career, and she's gobbling up points left and right and on the podium. So it was awesome to see the team out there doing really well, and I like the feedback that I'm getting too about the way that people are enjoying the way that our team is going about road racing. They're excited about the fact that we're actually injecting race tactics in there, and it's not just a big old arm wrestling competition at the end to see who's got the most horsepower, but we're actually employing tactics and doing some actual chess match road racing. It's been a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
That's been great. And then we had a bunch of guys down. We had guys that doubled up. That I think Whitney and maybe somebody else doubled up and went out and did the Coast Hills Classic mountain bike race the next day. And we had a pile of guys down there, and we had some podiums and wins down there, and some guys that just went down there and got super muddy and had a blast. But I'm just, again, super proud of this team. We are weeks into the season now, and we are like light years out in front in the team competition. We do have Therapeutic Associates that's kind of nipping at our tails, but I think we're probably 300, maybe 400 points up on them.
We need to. I'll tell you what. I may revive my road racing career if that one gets close. Not that I'm competitive with Therapeutic Associates, but that's kind of a personal, little personal rivalry there.
There
for
you go.
me.
Physical therapy versus physical therapy.
I may have to jump in if we get close.
Not for nothing. This is a year-long thing. This isn't just roads. So, I mean, it goes into cyclocross and time trials and the mountain biking racing. See, all of that stuff gets pooled into the cumulative points.
I'm really serious about this fall forcing me and Matt into some cyclocross. I think I'm really not joking about that because my last race is going to be the first week of September, Best in the West.
Yeah.
So we may need to jump in.
I'll cheer you on.
Well, Matt, you had fun at the practice. You did the stuff with the Tireless Fellow guys. The
Absolutely,
bridge.
yeah.
So
I love cyclocross practice.
You got to come back. We've got to have you come back. We'll have you skip
We're
David
doing it,
Douglas.
Matt. We're doing it.
That course wasn't fantastic. If you come out and just give like Hetmere or one of the Washougal races a chance, I have a sneaking suspicion you might have a renewed faith in your potential love of cyclocross racing. You just got to give it one more chance.
We shall see.
I'll make a promise on this podcast. I'll do a couple cyclocross this fall. I'll do it. Yeah.
So, anyways, collective total. So I'm super pumped about the way this weekend went. I'm really happy with where the team is at right now, and having all you guys on this team as well, Lance included, it makes me happy, and just to see how well the team is doing as a whole. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, all right. So that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for coming, Matt, Evan, Lance. Thank you very much for coming in. We really enjoyed having you.
My pleasure. I'll come
Thank
every
you,
week.
Lance.
So.
There you go.
We will definitely have Lance back. He's going to be a nice guy to have around. Next week, come on back and we'll have some more information for you. Get a lot of fun things on the list of topics to get through. Have a good one, and bye for now.